Welcome to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to be your guide today. Okay, let's dive right into this. We are going on a really fascinating linguistic tour around the globe. We're cracking open our source manual to explore the world of nationalities and languages in Spanish, specifically focusing on a 23-country reference table that is going to rapidly expand your conversational toolkit.
Picture this, classic icebreaker. ¿De dónde eres? Where are you from? It's usually one of the very first things you're asked when you meet someone new or travel to a Spanish-speaking country. But I want you to pause and ponder right now, how would you actually answer this in Spanish? Beyond just naming your country, do you know how to state your exact nationality and the language you speak with a proper grammatical gender? Well, by the end of our time together today, you absolutely will. Here's our roadmap for this explainer. First, the anatomy of a gentilicio. Second, exploring the Americas. Third, a trip across Europe. Fourth, Asia and Africa. And finally, applying your new vocabulary. Part 1. Anatomy of a gentilicio. Understanding nationalities. To kick things off, let's decode the DNA here. A gentilicio is just a fantastic Spanish word for a noun or an adjective that indicates a person's country or place of origin. Basically, a nationality. But here's the catch. In Spanish, words have gender. So these gentilicios actually transform depending on exactly who you're talking about. Now, what's really interesting about this first rule is how incredibly simple it is. For nationalities ending in the letter O for males, like Cubano, Brasileño, or Chino, you just swap that O for an A when talking about females. So Cubano becomes Cubana, Brasileño is Brasileña. Just a quick, single-letter swap and your grammar instantly aligns perfectly. And then we have our second major pattern. Take a look at words ending in a consonant or an accented A. Think Inglés, Francés, and Japonés. To make these feminine, you drop that accent mark completely and just tack an A onto the end. So Inglés becomes Inglesa, Francés becomes Francesa. Lock in these two core rules, the O to A swap and the drop the accent, add an A trick, and you've basically hacked this entire system. Moving on to part 2, exploring the Americas, north to south. All right, grab your passports. Let's see those rules in action with our first chunk of data. Look at Brazil. A male is brasileño, a female is brasileña, speaking Portuguese. Cuba gives us cubano and cubana, speaking Español. But check out Canada. The nationality is canadiense. Notice that E at the end? That makes it wonderfully gender neutral. A man or a woman from Canada is simply canadiense. And note the language column there too. The source correctly calls out the presence of both Inglés and Francés. I definitely want to highlight the United States entry here because it gives us some really fantastic linguistic variety. The manual lists 2 completely acceptable terms for the nationality. You can use estadounidense, which, just like canadiense, is gender neutral, or you can use norteamericano, which follows our standard O to A rule perfectly. Oh, and notice the language. It's specifically categorized not just as English, but as Inglés americano. Next up, part 3. A trip across Europe, exploring the Old World. Let's cross the Atlantic and see how this builds. Through Southern and Eastern Europe, our patterns hold up perfectly. Italia gives us Italiano and Italiana. Grecia gives us Griego and Griega. For the accented ones, Francia gives us Francés for a male and Francesa for a female. Also, did you notice how often the language is the exact same word as the masculine nationality? An Italian man is Italiano and he speaks Italiano. It makes memorizing this table so incredibly efficient. Heading north and west, spot this slight but vital distinction our source makes at the bottom here. Notice the difference between Inglaterra, England, where the nationality is Inglés or Inglesa, versus the broader Reino Unido or Gran Bretaña, the UK or Great Britain. For those, you'd use the gentilicio británico or británica, but either way, the language remains Inglés británico. It's a brilliant little detail to have in your back pocket. Before we leave Europe entirely, let's play a little trivia. Based on our source table, there's one country that is a total linguistic outlier. It boasts the highest number of primary languages listed in our data. Any guesses which European country officially claims 4 distinct languages? If you guessed Switzerland or Suiza, you nailed it. It's the undisputed linguistic champion of the table. A Swiss person is Suizo or Suiza, but the language column is absolutely packed with 4 entries: Suizo, Inglés, Alemán, and Francés. That uniqueness makes it a super memorable entry for your vocabulary arsenal. Part 4, Asia and Africa, completing the global tour.
Let's finish up our global mapping with this final chunk. Look how elegantly simple this section is. For China, Korea, and Japan, the country, nationality, and language often share the exact same root word. Someone from China is Chino or China, and they speak Chino. Wonderfully symmetrical. The standout exception here is our entry for Africa, Egipto. An Egyptian person is Egipcio or Egipcia, but the language totally breaks the mold. They speak Arabe.
Finally, part 5, applying your new vocabulary and putting it into practice.
So, what does this all mean for you? How do we actually use this data? At the very start of this explainer, I asked you, ¿de dónde eres? Now, here is a secondary question straight from the text. ¿Cuál es tu nacionalidad? What is your nationality? Knowing exactly when and how to answer these two specific questions is the secret to sounding like a natural.
Let's systematically break down these practice exercises. When someone asks, ¿de dónde eres?, you reply by stating the country itself. Yo soy de Cuba. I am from Cuba. If they ask about someone else, like, ¿de dónde es ella?, you'd say, ella es de Perú. She is from Peru. But if you hear, ¿cuál es tu nacionalidad?, that is your cue to drop the gentilicios we just covered, making sure the gender matches perfectly. You'd say, yo soy cubano. Not the country, but the nationality itself. This really shows the power of having a solid vocabulary framework. You now have the exact grammar rules and the specific country data to express precisely who you are. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a challenge. Take everything we just covered on our global tour, grab those gender rules and language terms, and construct your own identity. Tell me, ¿de dónde eres y qué idioma hablas? Thanks so much for joining me, and keep exploring.